Okay, this meeting is being recorded. Okay, so we're recording the session. We won't be sharing the slides afterwards, so you know, pay attention. And I think everybody has done that. Go on mute, unless when we get to the Q&A, and if you're called, you know, by all means go on to video and tell us who you are. Okay, so as I say, welcome to Stories That Stick. For those of you who don't know me, my name is, and that's because this is an open event. My name is Andrew Hallam. I have the privilege of running Aspire. And if you don't know Aspire, this is how we usually describe Aspire. It is a network of companies delivering global business services and technology services, mostly from Krakow, which is, of course, Europe's business services hub. So those are our members. There's about 80 different logos there. And if we go to the next slide. And these are our associate members, and you'll find Indeed in there. So we're a pretty robust network of international, local and multinational companies, really helping to develop the business services technology hub, which Krakow has become. Okay, and I reckon these logos tell a pretty compelling story of companies that have come together to help build the location, but we'll learn a little later whether I have the correct kind of understanding of storytelling. So without further ado, let's take a look at the agenda, if we may. The introduction, well, that's actually already happened. That was just me. I'm just about to hand over to the star of today's show. That is Gianluca Bonacchi. I hope I've pronounced that right, Gianluca. Those are some of the things that Gianluca will be talking about. And then after that, and that's going to be about 30 minutes. After that, we're going to have a Q&A moderated by Andy Samu, who is editor or features editor at Disruption Banking, and also founder of magazine Recruiter here in Poland. So I've known Andy for many years, and he tells a very good story. So without further ado, I think we'll hand over to Gianluca. So Dorothy, I think you need to stop sharing yours and Gianluca will take over. Gianluca, over to you, my friend.
Hi, Andrew, and hello, everyone. Such a pleasure being here with you all today. Just give me a second. I will share my screen so that we'll look at the same. My name is Gianluca Bonacchi, and I work as a recruitment evangelist here at Indeed, the #1 job site in the world. And in my role as an evangelist, I speak at numerous events, such as this one. So storytelling is actually an important part of what I do for work. So this is why I'm so excited to talk about using the art of narrative to attract top talent. And I will just ask everyone, please, to mute yourself, otherwise there will be a return of the sound. Look, we've been listening to stories from a very young age. If you think about it, it starts as early as pre-birth. You know, we have parents talking to us before we even enter the world. And then we go from nursery rhymes to stories we read in books through our childhood and our entire life. And then our own stories, the stories of our friends and family. Stories are all around us and impact our lives in such a profound way. And still no one teaches us how to tell a great story. And if you think about that, job seekers are confronted with thousands of stories every month. So we want you to stand out from the competition. So I want you to close your eyes for a second and take some time to think about your favorite movie. What made it so great? Was it the characters that drew you in, or the perfectly captured scenery? Or maybe it was a plot twist that you didn't see coming. And then I want you to think about, how did you feel during the movie? Did you laugh? Did you cry? Were you perhaps afraid to sleep with the lights off for a few weeks after you saw it? We have all personally experienced the power of a good story. And it's no surprise that storytelling is part of the fabric of our culture. In fact, humans have been communicating through stories for more than 20,000 years. And we can actually see the way that our stories evolved over time, from cave paintings to hieroglyphics to the printing press. You could study this image and probably come up with all kinds of talks about the story they were trying to tell. Well, for example, I can't figure out why it took 6 people to try to kill that poor fish who appears to be rolling its eyes at them. And well, we are no longer communicating on the side of caves, but still we are telling very quick stories through the use of pictures and a few words. And in this case, well, we know that they actually caught the fish. So the mediums that we use to tell stories have evolved and will continue to evolve, but storytelling itself remains a very powerful tool. In fact, I would actually go as far as to say that storytelling can be your secret weapon for attracting top talent to your company. And here is why. Research shows that stories cause our brain to produce oxytocin, which enhances our ability to experience empathy.
Yeah.
So when you tell a story, you're helping people connect with and trust your company. And research also shows that stories cause our brains to produce cortisol, which increases focus, motivation, and memory. In fact, stories have been found to be 22 times more memorable than facts. So using storytelling will not just evoke this emotional response, it will actually make your company more memorable. And given its impact on emotion, it's not surprising that companies that are very good at that leveraging those good stories see a positive shift in their brand's perception. This research from Nielsen illustrates that positive correlation between emotive power and brand favorability. And you can see it on this graph. And this reference to consumer brands, but as you can imagine, it's very similar when we talk about your employer brand. And we are faced with very unique challenges today. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted us in many different ways, including how we work. Not only that, job postings are bouncing back, and we are once again in a very tight labor market. To give you an idea, today in Poland, there are 16.3% more jobs than before COVID. So there are now more jobs open than ever. And companies over the past 16 months realized that how they tell their story during this time is more important than ever, because your reputation will follow you long after this crisis has finally ended. Brian Cheney is our director of employer brand here at Indeed, and he captures very well why telling your story is so important right now. He says that it's during challenging times that our character is often revealed. Once we are through this, job seekers will want to hear the story of how we responded. So really think about what you are doing today and how you can tell the story of how you are treating your people today, because that will impact your brand for decades. And right now you can sell that story across a variety of platforms. But today we are going to focus mostly on job descriptions, because this is actually a low-hanging fruit when it comes to connecting with job seekers. Job descriptions are a powerful tool to convey who you are, what you value, and what you look for in a candidate. And in the virtual world where we live right now, your job ads are actually the first opportunity that you have to tell your story to job seekers. It's often the first interaction between someone looking for a job and a potential employer. So we'll focus on job descriptions, but actually over the next 20 minutes, I also want you to think about how you can apply some of those suggestions to your brand story more in general, whether you're telling that on your company career site, on your Indeed company page, or anywhere else. Job descriptions can be challenging to write. As Dorothy Dalton, who is a global talent management strategist, says, copy, paste, recruitment is a common practice that makes most job descriptions all look the same. And sometimes this isn't even because we don't want to update them. It's because recruiters lack the resources and time to do so. But the more we educate our hiring teams on storytelling, the easier it will be, the more efficient it will be for them to create up-to-date and compelling job descriptions to attract top talent. So now we know how powerful storytelling is, but how can we actually apply this to the way we write our job descriptions so that those job ads will evoke emotion, connect with job seekers, and avoid that copy-paste problem that's we recently referenced. So I want you to put on your filmmaker hats, think about how you can apply these storytelling elements to attract top talent. And if you really like the process, get ready for Hollywood, because storytelling is all the same. So we're going to cover 6 storytelling elements that you can use when writing your job descriptions. First, you need to start with an opening hook. If you don't pick a candidate's attention from the very beginning, there is a very high risk that they will move on to the next job. We see people looking at different job opportunities when they search for a job. And if you are not so appealing from the first moment, well, they will just go to the next one. So you can do this by opening with a strong, attention-grabbing paragraph. You can't lose the candidate's attention with a very generic description. You want to make sure that your job content is compelling, interesting, and relevant. So to get started with this, think about the type of candidates you're trying to attract, and then think about what will really attract those people. Try to think about phrases that will really attract them. And we'll explore more storytelling elements that you can use to perfect this opening hook. And not just that, we also want to hold their attention through the rest of the job description. And look, I'm saying to think about your perfect candidates because what is interesting for someone may be not so interesting for others. If I think about what's relevant for me, well, I work in marketing, and it's very different than what will be interesting for my girlfriend, who is an economist. So I want to show a very strong job description from Apple, because they have a really interesting introduction. So they say, help architect our future. Be a leader of leaders. Get ready for your perfect job. And they're still providing information about the role, like the experience level needed. And they close with this, prepare to innovate, create, and inspire, that leaves you wanting to learn more about this role. Let's move from Cupertino to somewhere closer to where most of you are today. Or so actually reading in the chat, I've seen that someone is actually there today. And this is not a job description, but I really liked how the planner took a very different approach on their career site. They say that our team is a mix of the best specialists. We have a great working atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. Like you have never heard that before, but you are here. And this means you're interested in finding out what it's like to be in our team for real. So get in touch, Skype or meet us. You will see it yourself, no BS. We are hiring all the time. So a very different approach than Apple, but I really liked the way that they hooked me in, right? They wanted to be different. It's not the standard copy paste that everyone else is utilizing. And next, you need to make a personal connection. Today's candidates want to connect to a company whose mission and vision resonates with their values and belief. Think about your company story and why you feel personally connected. To put this into practice, I want to do something all together. So I want to ask you to find a piece of paper and write down a list of words that you will use to tell that story. So I will give you 1 minute. I want you to write down 5 to 7 words that you want to use to tell your company story, to make that personal connection. You have a minute. And if it was not clear enough, really, it's just about thinking about your company story and the words that you want to use to make people feeling connected with your company. Now, I'm assuming that most of you have written down maybe 3, 5, 6 words. Now I'll give you another minute. I want you to pull up one of your job descriptions. So go online, go anywhere you know that your jobs are. Open one of the job descriptions and check if the words that you wrote are actually in the job description itself. I'll give you another minute for that. So once again, I'm asking you to go online, find one of your job openings, open it, go through that and see if the words that you wrote before are actually already in the job description or not. So thanks everyone for taking the time to do this with me. We'll talk about this later on in the Q&A. So I will ask anybody who will want to ask a question to also share if they went through this exercise. But what's interesting is that every time I run this, most of the companies tell me that most of the words are not actually there. So, rethinking our job ads can be extremely powerful and effective. And if you want, just share in the chat if you manage to find all the words there, or only a few, or none of them. And I'll tell you how here at Indeed we feel connected with our mission. It's actually easy to feel, this personal connection with that. Our mission is to help people get jobs. So that's what inspires me every day. That's what brings me here. That's what makes me wanting you to stand out and tell your real story to job seekers so that they will be able to apply to the best companies. I want to show you a very short video.
It was the first time man walked on the moon. Because he stayed in orbit. Because they guided them safely.
Columbia, this is Houston. Do you copy?
Because she made the right calculations.
Roger, Columbia, this is Charlie. How do you read?
And because he let them focus on the mission instead of the mess.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, sorry about that. I just wanted to stick there for a second. Technology wasn't helping me. So this is a job, an advertisement, a TV ad that we ran in the past. Well, in a way, it's actually a job ad as well, right? Because if you feel connected to a company from their consumer brand, you actually feel connected if you want to apply to one of their jobs. And it was a very short 30-second video, but what I found very powerful there was the fact that it was really showing that personal connection to our mission that can inspire job seekers to join a company. So I hope that others out there are trying something similar. And I wanted to bring another example, this time from Monzo. And they say that they're building the best bank in the world, a bank you will be proud to use. And that means bringing together a talented team with diverse experiences, backgrounds, and skills. We believe there should be an alternative to the banking of the past. We are focused on solving problems rather than selling financial products, making your financial life simpler and giving you complete control from your smartphone. And they also say, it's not here, but that internally, they encourage an open, collaborative, inclusive working environment, and that they contribute to open source software. So this approach stands out from the more impersonal job descriptions that we typically see. The third storytelling element that I want to bring to the table is the element of conflict, adversity, or struggle that you can introduce. So one way to introduce conflict in your job descriptions is to clarify the problem your company is solving. Reflect on your mission statement or core values. What problem do you solve? What adversity do you help others overcome? And this creates dramatic tension that makes the job seekers want to keep reading to find out the resolution, just like in a movie. So by clarifying the problem your company is solving, you're able to communicate your transcendent purpose. Paul Zak, who is a director of the Center for Neuroeconomic Studies, found that people are substantially more motivated by their organization's transcendent purpose, so basically how the company improves lives, rather than by its transactional purpose, which would be more how the company is selling goods and services. And this is really best shared through stories. So let's look at an example of this from Habito. This mission statement from Habito creates dramatic tension by introducing conflict. In this case, how the mortgage in progress is disempowering, confusing, and kind of broken. Help us set people free from the hell of mortgages. Mortgages are broken. And the resolution is to fix those and rebuild home financing from the ground up. So this approach gets some job seekers invested in their mission, making it more likely qualified candidates will apply to the jobs. Next, you need to include interesting characters. Again, like in your favorite movies, probably you love the characters there, or you hate them. It really depends on the kind of movie you like. But what do we mean by this? You will want to offer job seekers a personality they can connect with, instead of just a list of benefits and statistics. You need to define the voice and personality you use to talk about your employer brand. Does this voice sound like someone your ideal candidate would want to hang out with? And this doesn't just provide a unique point of view, it also increases the likelihood of compatibility between the candidate and your company. Here is an example from Blue Apron. And they use this section before each job description. It's called the This is Blue Apron. And it paints a picture of who they are. For example, they say that our highly motivated group of food enthusiasts are inspired to work on complex business problems with creativity and passion. But actually what's special about them, what I really like, is the way they structure their job ads, how they bring those storytelling elements through the job description. So they have those subheadings like who is in the kitchen for the summary of the role, or what's on the menu to describe responsibilities, and necessary ingredients for skills and qualifications. So now we have memorable characters, but we want to set the scene. And the setting you create is so important. We recently ran a series of interviews here at Indeed, with candidates and job seekers about the hiring process. We were trying to understand how they were feeling and perceiving the different companies. And during one of those interviews, a job seeker said, there are some companies that instantly stand out to me as places where I would love to work. You can almost feel what it's like to work there just by reading their job description. And this is what you really want. You want to make sure that people are able to feel what it's like to work for your company just by reading that. And when you talk about your company, describe what life there is like day to day. Give them, meaning job seekers, a sense of your style and culture. And if you're working virtually right now, setting the scene of your company culture and the typical day in the life will help candidates feel like they're there. So, for example, I really like this video from Novartis. So the video captures really well their mission and culture, but they also include this theme in their job description, which helps paint the picture of what it's like to work there. For example, they bring curious, courageous, and collaborative people together in an inspiring environment. I also want to share another example, and this is even closer to where most of you are, because it's actually from a company in Krakow, which is Cinerise. And I really like how they use storytelling to talk about the work environment. They talk about creating an exceptional culture based on freedom of thought, boldness, and respect for talent with real great people on board. And they say that, see if you fit our diverse and dynamic environment, where we constantly evolve together with the growth of our clients. Once again, a great summary that really helps people understanding the work environment, the cultural fit, and really that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have the right people to apply to their jobs. So we went through storytelling elements, but you can't forget the fundamentals. No matter how great your story is, if it doesn't follow, proper principles like grammar and structure, it will fall flat. And it's the same if you think about job ads. So one of the most important part, in my opinion, and actually we really believe this at Indeed, is that you need to target and be precise. Think like a job seeker by using keywords and phrases that people will search for. You need to select a job title that will actually describe the main aspect of the role. So this is an example I really love from Spotify, which is a great company, and they're great at writing job ads as well. So what are they doing here in this very short job ads? Well, first of all, they are including this keywords and phrases that speak to the company's culture. They're looking for someone thoughtful, well-rounded, someone who loves the web, someone who can take a concept and transform it. it's my favorite part. They're telling you, look, we're not looking for someone who will just sit here, work 8 hours, doing whatever we tell them to do and leave. We're looking for someone who wants to bring ideas, who wants to change someone else's ideas. And not everybody is the right person for that job, right? So they're looking for that specific kind of talent. Not only that, in the same lines, and I'm just changing the color and the words that I'm highlighting, they're actually using the keywords that perform well in search results. What does it mean? That people nowadays are looking for jobs online. They go to Indeed, for example, and they search what kind of job they want to do. And they search that by keywords. And Spotify, once again, is great at putting all those keywords together. Front-end engineers, projects, coding, web-based experience, UI, UX expertise. So they make sure that the right people are finding them, so that you find them and then you really decide to apply for the role. And then you want to eliminate biased language, avoid gender biased language. For example, women may be discouraged to apply to jobs with characteristically masculine terms like aggressive, while men may be discouraged to apply to jobs with characteristically female terms like nurturing. Now, I wouldn't know how to translate that into Polish, but I'm sure that there is so much to work on, and I know it's such a complicated language, so I'm sure that thinking about that and thinking about you can really eliminate biased language can have a huge impact. So to summarize, we have 6 storytelling elements that I encourage you to play around, to play around with the next time you will be writing job descriptions. You may not use all of them all together, but definitely pick and choose and try and see what really works for you. You want to start with an opening hook and then make a personal connection. You want to introduce conflict, include interesting characters while creating a great setting. And all of that without forgetting the fundamentals. So thank you for your attention so far. I know that we still have about 25 minutes to chat together. Feel free to jump in with questions or ideas around storytelling to attract talent, whether it's in job descriptions or through your company story and your employer brand. And if you were able to actually write down that list of words and check your job descriptions while I was asking you to do so, please let me know if you found them in your job ad or not. Thank you for listening.
Okay, so thank you very much, Gianluca. Fascinating. Look, guys. So if you have any questions, there are 2 ways to do this. You can, there are probably more than 2 ways, but there are at least 2 ways. One is to start writing in chat. If you have a question, put the question in chat. The other one is to stick up your hand and just say, I've got a question. And then, I'm not quite sure whether it's an entry, you want to reveal your hand in terms of what your question is or not. So anyway, please do that. Gianluca, I have to say, I'm really impressed at the way that Indeed has appropriated the moon landing for your own story. That's very, very impressive.
Yeah, but as you probably noticed, that the focus was not on the moon landing, it was on all the people who made that possible, right? So many great people from different backgrounds who did very different things, and we needed all of them to make that possible.
No, you're absolutely. I mean, I very much appreciate the fact that you democratized the moon landing, right? So I did appreciate it, actually. Right, Jarek Maslanka, I see you've got your hand up. Before I come to you, I just want to introduce Andy Samu. Do you want to come on video, my friend, so we can see you?
I'm on video all the time, Mr. Hallam.
Oh, are you? Okay, I just couldn't see you. Okay, so good. So you founded Recruiter magazine, which I know really kind of tells stories, right? So you've kind of seen the connection, I think, between storytelling and recruitment for some time. So you're a bit of a pioneer in this field, I would say. I've got a question for you, if I may, and please, other people, could you put your questions into chat. But for Andy, at the beginning, I showed the logos of Aspire members and our associate members, and we find that really kind of powerful in terms of saying who we are. But it did occur to me as I was listening to Gianluca there, you know, what's the difference then in your view? And this will be a question for you as well, Gianluca. What's the difference then between storytelling and brand? Because doesn't brand tell a story?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hallam. Thank you for coming back to me. Gianluca, I'll just take a couple of moments as well. We've been in publishing now for over 10 years, Gianluca, so just to give the audience a bit of background as well. Recruiter was founded in 2010 in Poland. It was the first ever recruitment industry magazine in Poland, and we needed it in Poland quite badly at the time. I think today the market's matured, it's different now. But in the UK, we had Global Recruiter, UK Recruiter, and several other magazines all across the world. And they were fundamental in helping, I think, a lot of recruiters understand how to go to the next stage. We used to get these magazines for free in England. It was fantastic. They were really glossy, big magazines as well. It was the first time in recruitment that we really saw publishing come to us. But Gianluca, that was when we used fax machines and things like that. And I had several dinosaurs living in my garden, what have you. So I think when it comes to brand, Andrew, you know, we created brands many years ago when the cavemen were painting things in caves. Today, Gianluca has taken the caveman representation and smartly posted an Instagram story with hashtags on it, which probably smoothly brings us onto the difference between brand and storytelling, because I think Instagram has revolutionized and democratized storytelling. But Gianluca, perhaps you know more than that. You look visibly younger than me.
No, yeah, probably, maybe, I don't know that, I can't comment on that, but yeah, I think, you know, storytelling is part of brand, but brand is much more than that. So if I think about a company brand that's made of two parts, on one hand you have what you're telling, the story you're telling, but on the other hand is the real story out there. It's what others are telling. You know, you need to put those pieces together, and companies great at telling their story are great at amplifying that messages that others are already bringing out to the market. So everybody can do storytelling. Not everybody has a brand, or well, we have a personal brand, but yeah, it's a very different story. And I really like what Andy was saying about you know, making the storytelling public or more democratic in a way. And now everyone is out there telling their story. It's actually, as there are so many people that are telling their stories, it's actually harder to stand out. And everybody's more focused on telling their own story rather than listening to others telling their own, right?
Okay.
Well, in the past, I have the feeling that we were more focused on, you know, hearing something and then bringing back to friends. You know, you were hearing or reading an amazing story and you wanted to bring that back to your family and friends. Now you're so focused on trying to stand out in this competition. And for brands, it's kind of similar.
Okay, all right, so thank you. I'm going to go to you then, Jarek, because you were the first to stick your hand up. So please, what's your question?
Hello, I'm Jarek Maslanka from Pegasystems. So Gianluca, you presented some of these nice descriptions, but I'm going to challenge them, because my gut still tells me that most of these companies don't actually have such culture, and in the end, it's only the ad that looks compelling, the story that is compelling. But then you join a company, and the reality really doesn't match the description or the keywords. And you know, people are tasked with huge amount of work. They get deadlines, and they just want to quit after a few months. So for me, when I'm looking at such a story, it tells me something that this is marketing, right? They want to sell their company, their brand to me, but I don't believe it's so nice inside of this company. How does it work?
So if I could just jump,
yeah,
Gianluca,
yeah.
just because I'm going to just kind of complement that to what Jarek just said. So because you showed the company in Krakow the job ad from the company in Krakow, and I was thinking, well, I can think of another 50 companies in Krakow that would say the same thing as that. And to Yarek's point, you know, why should I believe that particular company that they're right? Yeah.
So, well, you're perfectly right. Sometimes it's just marketing, but when it's just marketing, then they're not doing their job right. So who is going to help if you're just saying things for the sake of attracting talent, but then your company is very different? You said that yourself. People will leave the company within a few months, and that will cost tons of money to the company. It's cost of hiring, onboarding, time spent. So I brought those examples just because they inspired me in a way, and I found them attractive. And I can't speak about those companies myself, right? But what people do, what job seekers do nowadays, is that they go online and they do the research. They go online and they search on websites like Indeed, and they look for reviews, and they try to understand how others are feeling within a company. And if the company story is very different than the company told by the people, then they're going to distrust them. So on one end, there is the fact that really telling a fake story doesn't help anyone, and it's actually not just not helping, it's damaging your own company. But there is also the fact that you need to acknowledge that people will find more information before deciding to take on a job. And we have seen that trend growing over time. It was growing in the past few years already, but it grew dramatically over the past year. So we have seen people from the start of the pandemic spending more and more time doing research and trying to understand companies. Do I really want to apply to the job? Do I really want to go on with the next interview or not? And it was fascinating. I remember March last year when we got hit hard by COVID, and we're trying to predict what was going to happen. We actually thought, well, we'll see a lot of job applications across the board. Oh, we were wrong. We realized that the story was very different. After a month, we looked at the data and we were like, oh, actually, that didn't happen. And we figured out that people actually decreased the amount of job applications they were sending. In a moment of uncertainty, they were thinking 2-3 times more before sending their CV to a specific company. They were doing their research online, reading reviews, reading all the information they could find. And of course, there are people who will still apply to any job they find, and serial candidates, as we call them, they exist and they will keep existing. But more and more people are spending time doing research. So my suggestion is think about storytelling, but really to tell a true, authentic story.
Tell the truth, right? Tell the truth. Okay, I've got that one. This is a question from Anna. I'm not sure who Anna is because it doesn't say, but anyway, you're there, Anna. You're quite welcome to come on view and tell us, show us. Okay.
Yes, this is me. Hello. I don't know if you can hear me or see me for that matter. Okay.
We can't
so
hear you. We can hear you.
I'm working on this. Yes. Yeah, it should be up any minute now.
So Anna, what company do you represent?
So I'm from Lundbeck in Krakow. I'm Anna Kasperczyk and pleased to be part of this meeting today. So my question is actually around trends in recruitment marketing and what do you see happening on the market? What trends are worth considering? And if anything has changed dramatically over the past year?
Okay, so we'll question both for Gianluca and for Andy, but just one trend each, okay? Because we could have a whole program, I'm sure, on the trends, right? So you each have one trend, and Gianluca, we'll let you go with the first. Yeah.
So the biggest trend we are seeing is, and I mentioned that briefly during my presentation, is that there is a big bounce back in jobs. We see that more companies are hiring than ever before right now, and Poland is one of those countries where this is really happening, and if we look at the data. So there is a lot of struggle for companies to hire the right people. So there is an increased focus on employer brand. So more companies are really trying to stand out from the competition, as they know that there are many other opportunities for job seekers right now. So they really need to show them why they should be the right companies for them.
Okay, thank you. Andy, before you answer whatever you're going to answer, I'm going to kind of come in with a question then in reply to what Gianluca said, but it's for you, right? So if companies need to increase their efforts in terms of employer branding during this kind of COVID period, how have they been able to do it during COVID?
Gianluca, I don't know about yourself, but I've been watching these programs called Monday.com. Obviously, Slack is something we've always been aware of, but I think Monday.com has become revolutionary because we're watching companies now where people within the companies have automated LinkedIn and Facebook posts coming out with company information. This is something I haven't experienced at this level before. Maybe this is something in Poland that is new. Maybe in the Western parts, this has been happening for a while, but perhaps this started as well when the CEO role was changed. Once upon a time, a CEO, and I think in Poland, a lot of you may have known Przemek Gdański, the CEO of BNP Paribas. He's probably the most active banker on social media. But when he started posting, people were like, oh my God, why can't he get on with his job? A few years later, people were like, oh my God, we're recruiting more people because he's posting. And now, please don't stop posting, Przemek, please keep posting. And I think, Gianluca, I don't know about yourself, but I'm seeing that trend grow even bigger. So, Gianluca, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, no, we see that, and it goes back to real people telling the real story, right? So what's different here is that someone is telling their own story. So it's not as BNP in this case, just going out and telling what's happening. It's actually someone really important in the company, giving their own vision, and this. We can see how this evolved over the past few years with so many ambassadorship programs within companies where they're pushing out people to go and really be honest and tell what's happening. At Indeed, for example, we have this hashtag that we use. We have this hashtag Inside Indeed. So you're encouraged every time something work-related happens that is worth telling, that you use this hashtag. And then our employer brand team is monitoring that and is promoting that. So sometimes you see, people sharing their own personal life within the company. We have some extra days off that the company gave us over the past year because of COVID and the pressure that it had on us. And you could see people posting pictures of how they enjoyed that extra day off, spending some time with their family. And those are real stories that people can really connect with.
Gianluca, Andrew, I have to do this because I don't know, Gianluca, who do you support? What football team do you support, Gianluca? Come on, tell us. You've got to tell.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
What football team do you support?
AC Milan.
AC Milan, because I don't know whether you know, but we have two football teams in Krakow. And they don't like each other very much, a bit like Inter Milan and AC Milan. And you just happened to choose one of the sponsors of one of the football teams, Gianluca, when you went through the presentation. I thought that was really interesting.
Okay, that was completely by chance. I didn't know about Jets, and yeah, football is not the greatest topic to discuss for me in the past maybe 7 or 8 years. It's not been great.
No, but Sunrise is managing director. He's also the managing director of Wisła Kraków, which is probably the bigger football team in Kraków as well. So very interesting. You brought that up. Very interesting.
Yeah, I was looking for some relevant example locally because. Every time you see Apple and you're like, well, that's Apple. They can say whatever they want, and they know them already. So I wanted to bring, some local flavor into this.
Absolutely.
Great. I'm very, because I don't know if that was that might have been an answer there to Yarek's original question. It seems to me that Yarek, you probably need to up your social media profile, my friend, on LinkedIn. Because we're hearing, no, you've got a very good social media profile on LinkedIn. So you like my post anyway. So, but yeah, so I mean, you were talking there about the idea of employees effectively becoming influencers, including the leaders in the organization, right? Is that, I think both of you were kind of suggesting that was a way to go. Look, we've got like 7 minutes to go, and I'm having a look to see if we've got any other questions so far. So we haven't. So I was going to say, what?
No, there's a chap called Chris. There's a chap called Chris with his hands up. Mr. Hallam.
Yeah, the chap called Chris. Hey guys, hey Andy, hey Andrew, hey Michael. And I'm a Man City fan. Before you ask Andy, so
I wouldn't have let you in. I wouldn't have let you in if I'd known that. Anyway, okay.
Sorry about that. But look, I think this has been a great discussion, and I think I mean,
Chris, before you go, where are you from?
I'm actually from Belfast, but live in Amsterdam, and I've been in the shared services industry about 20 years. So I'm finding this conversation fascinating from, let's say, a recruiter and a HR standpoint, which is, I guess, a bunch of this audience. But what about if we flip the coin and turn it from the other angle? If we look to the future, as we grow and develop our GBS talent, either in companies today or the talent pool that we want to recruit from, be it Krakow or wherever else, how do we start ensuring that storytelling becomes a skill set of the future? I think, the technical skills going forward are going to be very much a given, but in the world of GBS, we want to attract talent, the right talent, not just any talent, to organizations that have these softer skills, change management, culture, storytelling, being curious. How do we as an industry then, not just from a sort of recruitment perspective, sell the brand of our organizations, but how do we start then getting the talent of the future to have storytelling as part of a key skill and capability? Any ideas or reflections on that?
Gianluca.
So there is something I've heard lately from a couple of head of talent of big companies. One is from Enel, which is the biggest Italian electricity provider, and the other one is from Crédit Agricole. So both of them said something that really resonated with me, which is we need to hire more philosophers. And it's a completely different approach, right? We always think about, hey, we need more data scientists. Well, they're seeing that we need to change the trend. So you can't just hire for this kind of skills. You need to find different kind of people. So that's one way. And more generally speaking, I think that there needs to be an increased focus on diversity and inclusion in general. And that will bring in different skill set, different experiences, different backgrounds that will really help this company stands out. So maybe sometimes we can look for storytellers, but sometimes we can just figure out who the great storytellers are among our people, as long as we have this diverse population.
And Chris, oh, sorry, Andy, okay, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, sorry. So, because Chris, I've moved from recruitment into journalism, and probably I've got a different angle from Gianluca in that regard, because I've been in both worlds quite heavily. Chris, I don't know whether you read Bloomberg or Reuters or what have you, but in their job descriptions now, storytelling is demanded from their content people. The problem is that journalists don't get paid very much, Chris. So there's not a huge amount of people going into that industry sector. And going back to what Gianluca said, yeah, it's great to have these ideas, but it isn't that easy to get good copywriters, Gianluca. This is not an industry sector that's booming at the moment. But when I speak to startups, and I have calls with startups 4 or 5 times a week, nearly all of them are desperate for content people, and they can't find them. So Gianluca, I believe that there is a demand in the market, but I think that much like Java developers were created as an industry sector 10 years ago, and the market is catching up, I think we may be in the same ride here on the content side.
Interesting.
Chris, I was going to come to you, Chris. I was going to say, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think as GBS wants more of a stake at the C-suite table, as we're getting more power across, all the different functions. I think the art of storytelling to help influence and negotiate with your C-suite members, your CFOs, your finance directors in country, as you're negotiating to bring out more work, it's going to be critical. I think those technical skills on being able to drive, process improvement or process a journal entry or pay an invoice, they're important. But I think going forward for to our industry to survive and thrive, this art of storytelling has got to become, I think, more prevalent as an inbuilt capability across all of our organizations. So I think it's an exciting time, and I love what I heard from Gianluca, and I think a lot of it's taking some of what we heard and turning it into almost creating a personal brand for yourself. because, you know, I think that's what the recruiters will want to tap into. You know, if there's 99 AP processors in front of you and one that can tell a story around, you know, why he or she loves AP processing that grabs your attention, well, I know who I would give the job to. So
yeah, I'm thank you for that. And I mean, I'd say very interestingly, right? So, I mean, within the Krakow environment, which now employs 100,000 people, right? So, you know, from 0 to 100,000 over 15 to 20 years.
But not just in shared service center, there are other people as well working.
Shared services and technology services, Andy. All right. So, so yeah, you're absolutely right. But what I would say is this: I mean, graduates were employed initially, you know, because they spoke English, right? So it wasn't the complexity of the jobs, but it has become the complexity of the jobs. But it's become more than the complexity of the jobs. It's become the fact that these are very educated people. Okay, and the other point to this is people weren't hired for the skills that they came out of university with. They were hired for, you know, they weren't necessarily hired from the technical universities. They were being hired from, you know, people with humanities degrees. So in a certain sense, I think that is, it's to your point. It's what's helped us develop is that we have had those kinds of people working in the industry. And more, I think that as people evolve within their jobs, so they are also learning those aspects of being influencers. Because as we know, especially as shared services moves into GVS, that role of being an influencer within the organization becomes ever more important. Look, we've hit 1 o'clock. So we've only got 60 minutes, but I ought to, let's take another 2 minutes. I'm going to ask Andy and Gianluca for one key takeaway. So, and Gianluca should have the last word. So Andy, very quickly, one key takeaway, my friend.
So I think it's really good to hear about storytelling. I've been talking to people about storytelling in Poland for about 4 years now at the Recruitment Industry Awards we used to run in Warsaw. I've also posted a couple of examples here of storytelling that we have come across as a magazine. Dariusz from Aon, a HR company in Krakow, he was very early on the storytelling stage and he had his comeuppance. And it's not about his first post. Dariusz didn't get 3,000 likes on his first post. He had to do it diligently, week in, week out. Storytelling won't happen immediately. That's my last word.
Okay, you should also mention that the other link is to the Aspire is Happy video.
Yeah, we should, and that's your story told, exactly, Mr. Hallam. That's
Very
the story
good.
of Krakow's success, absolutely.
Please click on that link. Please click on that link. Luca.
So my final thought is, you know, building on what we discussed with Andy as well. Hear your stories, hear your people, try to understand what they are already talking about. And this goes back to what Yara was asking as well, right? When you think about storytelling, start from something real, be authentic. And that's what's going to bring you the real talent that you need.
Thank you very much, guys. I think this is we probably should have scheduled more time. We could carry on this discussion. I think it actually opens up a whole kind of wealth of area for further discussion. So maybe we'll have episode 2. But anyway, for now, thank you, Andy, for joining us. Thank you, Gianluca. Thank you, everybody else, for attending. And yeah, take care, stay safe, keep talking, and see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.